by doing this, we're going to get them bought in, right? I don't care how great your culture is, how great your shop is, how great your cuts are. It's not going to matter if so when it comes to, client retention, go ahead with what you were just saying as far as like past, we'll kind of come back to what we were just talking about. But
Yeah.
as far as like, the culture and stuff like that. But I guess what were you just about to say?
So making sure that your barbers have similar skill sets and talents,
Okay.
because as we mentioned in a previous episode, you can set yourself up terribly by investing in your barbers, and then your best barber leaves and you have just lost 40% of your client base, right?
Yep.
So you don't want the situation of, oh, John isn't available today, or he's not available all week. His schedule's crazy because he's the best barber at your shop. And people are unwilling to get a cut from your other barbers because they know that their skill set isn't that high quality. Or it's the flip side of, let's say you have, since we had a conversation with a guy today, let's say you have 10 barbers, right? Let's say 2 of them have been at your shop for like a decent amount of time, let's say a year, 2 years, something like that. I'm not saying somebody fresh out of school, that's a different situation. But let's say that they've been at your shop for a year and a half, and their skill set is pretty dramatically below everybody else. That's a big problem.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't have barbers that have similar skill sets, in the sense that a client can just come to your shop and know the type of haircut they're going to get, versus let's say somebody's a walk-in and it's their first time and they don't get your best barber. Because if they are a walk-in, who's the barber that's going to be available? Probably the guy that doesn't have the biggest client list. So he goes to that guy and he gets jacked up,
Yeah.
right? Like, everybody's had it, where they get out of the chair and they're like, dude, what were you doing?
Yeah, dude. It took me
And
like 3 cuts in the same day, bro.
yeah,
Same day. It was that bad because I was about to travel. And this is when I
yeah.
first moved to Houston.
Mhm.
And I literally went to 3 shops in the same day, like in desperate need. Like, somebody please fix this because I cannot
Yeah.
travel looking like this.
Yeah. And so it's one of those things with client retention that people do not think about,
Yep.
because we have, these systems, processes, automations that can help with that. We talked about shop culture and experience, but one of the big ones, and we kind of take it for granted because in our position, most of the people coming to us, they can offer a very solid haircut across the board. But there are times where you have someone who, and maybe it's not their skill set or talent level, maybe it's their mindset, and they, feel whatever. Maybe they have a big ego, they have a chip, whatever the case is, and they're just not giving it their best effort. And then they screw up a cut, you have just lost a client. If you screw up their hair, they're not coming back.
Yeah.
It's highly unlikely. And so, as a barbershop owner, whether it's booth rent, commission, hourly, it doesn't really matter in this sense of, this is why investing into your barbers is really important. Because when you don't invest and you just let them do whatever, maybe they try to get better, maybe they don't care that much, and it's like, I get paid, whatever. You're going to start seeing dramatic changes in the type of haircut that can be delivered. And clients will realize that. And if somebody comes in for a walk-in multiple times, if they're perceptive, they're going to be like, why is this guy always available? Why is nobody ever in his chair? I've came in here 3 times now, different days, different hours, and he didn't have somebody in his chair. So that's one of the things that stands out to me with client retention. It just was stuff that people don't think about, because I don't know. There seems to be a, just like, well, people don't come back. It is what it is. And it's like, bro, you can change that.
Yeah. Literally. It's not that
It's like,
difficult.
no. And why client retention is so important is because people don't pay $10,000 for a haircut like they do other services. Like we have worked with concrete guys, foundation guys, you know, we have a very good friend who works in dirt moving, site prep, that type of stuff. Those are high ticket projects, 10 grand, 15 grand, 20 grand more. When you're talking 30 to even up to $100 at your high end, right? That's a low ticket service. So what you as an owner and what you as a barber have to care about is your lifetime client value. Because that's really the only thing that matters. And that's why client retention is so important. Let me take that back. That's not the only thing that matters, but that's the biggest indicator for long-term success.
Oh yeah.
Is if you have a high client lifetime value, you're going to be in a much better spot than just about every other shop who the last time I looked into this, it's anywhere in the range of 40 to 60% of your first time clients do not come back. And I did a post about it, I think, where it's like, if you increase that number by 10, or if you decrease that number, excuse me, by 10% with a $30 cut price, you make an extra 50 grand a year. Or the shop sees 50 grand more in revenue per year. So it's really important. And the great thing for barbershop owners is the bar is super low.
It really is.
Like, it's the only service industry where they don't think that they're in a service industry.
Yeah.
Because so many barbers, I've had them, I know that you have, they could care less about customer service.
Yeah.
They don't think it matters. They think God put them on this earth to have, a pair of clippers in their hand, and it doesn't matter how they treat people. And guess what? Those are the same barbers that have been at 10 shops in 15 years, 10
Yeah.
years, right? We know guys like that. We have worked with clients who they have a vet barber and they don't like some of the things that are happening, even though, more money's coming in, more people are coming in, and they leave.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, there's a reason for that. And then some clients stay more, and it's like, oh, this person wasn't just a problem for the shop; it was a problem for the clients too.
Yep. Yeah, I would say that's definitely even with client retention, and because that's definitely one of the biggest pieces of why guys are struggling. It's because you're constantly on this chase of getting clients through the door, whether they're walk-ins, whether they're posts from your Instagram, posts on your Facebook. And at that, you're not even strategically posting, which, we can discuss that at a later date because guys are just putting up pictures of haircuts. And then it's like the industry standard. Guys just put pictures of haircuts online and then like put their link in their bio or to their Booksy and call it good. It's like you got to strategically post. But again, we'll touch on that at a later date. I think that retaining clients can be a lot easier than guys make it because, to your point, the bar is set so low to where even if you're just having, again, follow-up reminders or even kind of like these post-service surveys in the sense of after they get a haircut, they get a text or they get an email asking them, one, to leave a review, and two, to let you know how the service was. And it can be anonymous. You don't have to ask for their name. You could just have a kind of anonymous link, right? Where it's just a link to a survey. It's a few questions. They answer them. Boom, you're done. And you don't need every single person in the chair to fill it out. But if you're cutting, as you should be, over the course of 3 to 6 months, right? If you have even 100 people fill out that survey, you have some pretty good data to tell you like what's not working in your shop or in your chair. You know what I mean? And what you need to improve on, because people are going to vocalize like why they're probably not coming back. I know.
Oh, yeah.
People
are way more vocal about why they won't come back versus why they continue to come back.
Yeah.
And one thing that just spiked in my head when you were saying that. I had a barber do this when I was, I don't know, we were probably in high school.
Okay.
But I went in to my barbershop. I've been going there since I was a child, and that's the barbershop I had gone to up until I moved down here. But I asked for a haircut, like a very specific type of haircut. And the barber said no. He's like, I'm not going to do that because you're not going to like how it looks. He's like, your hair and your hairline does not fit with this cut. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, then can you give me some like recommendations about what would look good?
Yeah.
And I think that, and I'm not saying do that for like, don't like nitpick someone's choice, right? But if someone comes to your chair and they're like, and they show you a picture of something, it's like, hey, can you do this? It's like, yes, I can, but I want you to know. So just be a human being with people, right? Like you're not a robot. When someone sees a picture and they have like some like inspiration or whatever, don't just do it because that's what they want and they're paying you. Like they're coming to you because you are a professional. Part of being a professional is giving your advice. Where it's like, hey, that might not work, but I got another idea that's similar to that I think would look a lot better. People are going to trust you way more than just you doing that cut and then it comes out looking bad and now you're blamed. Now it's the barber's fault that they don't look like the picture on, IG or whatever that they showed them, right? So it's just little things where it's like you have to think about customer service first. Have to. And we had a situation where one of our clients had to refund a haircut because something happened where the client said they wanted X, they got Y. The barber was very kind of aggressive almost in saying like, no, that's not what you said. That's not what you said. And like words were exchanged, people had to be cooled down, the barber had to refund a $50 haircut. Not a good situation, right? So things like that will present themselves. But if you have a customer service mindset first, I'm not saying the customer is always right because we all know that's not true.
Yeah.
But treat them with respect, give them grace where it's like, hey, maybe I made a mistake, right? Maybe I heard something wrong. Next cut's on me. And I'm not saying do that for everybody that says that they got a bad cut. But in these situations, it's better to just take the L and be like, hey, my bad. Come back in. Let's talk about it. Whatever you want for your next cut, it's on me. Don't even sweat it. Because then that person comes back. Instead, we were on a call this morning with a barbershop owner, and he was talking about another barbershop in his area. And he was saying how clients come to them from a pretty big barbershop in that city, being like, their cuts are terrible. Last thing you want to have happen. Because, as I've mentioned a bunch, whether it's in videos or on the pod, it's so easy for people to just switch and try new barbershops, try new barbers. If someone is in the chair and is saying that to a barber, there's most likely other people around. But then also that barber has a incentive when someone brings them up again to be like, hey bro, did you know? Hey, like their cuts aren't all that. And so you have to do your best to limit that sort of negative feedback that's happening outside of the barbershop or you're not aware of. And that comes from very good customer service. It's what it is. It boggles my mind that people that are barbers don't realize that. I'm not going to generalize and say all barbers. A lot of barbers don't think that they have to have good customer service.
Yeah.
Because the quality of their cuts or whatever. And it's like those two things don't match up.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to provide a good experience and you have to know how to your point about handling conflict. I'm glad that you mentioned that because it's very easy to get defensive. But like we tell guys, whether they're our clients or we're just on initial sales meetings, is think of this long term, right? Because like Owen mentioned, um, you're in like a low ticket industry. You have to think longevity and what's the lifetime value of the client. And even over a 12-month period, I know we were just doing some math, which kind of leads me, I guess, to this example of, on our YouTube channel, we got a comment from actually a consumer, and they said that they stopped going to particular barbershops because, and not just them, they stopped taking their 3 sons. And I want to just stop right there before we get to the reasoning, because the reasoning is a whole different bucket. But just thinking long term, right? If you have 3 cuts and they were this person's 3 sons, right? And Owen and I were just doing it. It's if we average it at, let's just call it $30. If you're charging $30 for kids' haircuts, right? And they come in once a month for all 3 of their kids. Now you've just lost $1,000 over a 12-month period, just because of the culture aspect. Now, again, there's some other things like your cuts got to be good, of course, right? And you have to have customer service. That's where we're mentioning these things. But just thinking that to yourself, like if one time, so all those 3 of those haircuts, 30, 30, 30, $90, right? Let's just say one time you had to refund it. If you handled that situation properly, like, hey, there must have been miscommunication. I must have misunderstood something. I'm sorry. How can I make this right? Because to Owen's point, that's one strategy of conflict resolution, right? Especially when it comes to haircuts, right? Somebody just might want an extra 10 minutes. Like for me, if I were to say something, it'd probably just mean that I want something touched up. A free haircut's great and all, but you don't have to like jump out the gate coming out with, hey, a free haircut or let me refund you your money. And that's why I'm trying to show guys like the options and asking first, hey, that's my bad. To your point, I like how you said that, where you're taking accountability. Hey, that's my bad. I must have misunderstood something. I want to make this right. What in your eyes can I do that would make this right? Now you put it back on the consumer to tell you. Now they have to sit back and be like, wow, most people aren't doing that first and foremost. You're going to catch a lot of people off guard where they're going to sit there and think like, and some guys are going to try to game the system. Oh yeah, I want free haircut, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. Whatever. What's one time, right? If you can build that relationship and establish that connection, but I'd be willing to bet that the vast majority of people are willing to just tell you what's wrong. I actually wanted this type of haircut or this type of style. Oh, I didn't like the lineup, or, I didn't blah, 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 whatever the case might be, right? So it might be a situation or an issue you can fix in a chair right then and there, just spending an extra 5-10 minutes on the cut. So you have options just by asking something as simple as that. Is there something you want to add to that?
No, that's a awesome distinction. That's a really good point. And it's having because it's like all of this is in a sense sort of like game theory. I'm reading all about game theory right now. And it's like when you're in this game with a, client, let's say, and you make a mistake, whether it's perceived, correct, whatever, who cares? Take accountability, give the person grace that they're not trying to game the system. If you realize later that they are, then you know how to handle that. But I gotta sneeze. But don't automatically assume if someone gives you a criticism about a haircut that it wasn't your fault, that you didn't hear something wrong, that you didn't make a mistake. Because everybody makes mistakes. If you're cutting 8 to 15, 20 people a day, 5 to 6 days a week, 7 days a week, you are going to make mistakes. It will happen. And people will think higher of you if you own those mistakes. So that's another part of customer service and client retention that people don't think about. The other one, because we're going to talk about some like concrete methods here in a little bit, I just wanted to talk about some of the things that a lot of people don't think about when they think about client retention.
Imagine this. Every chair in your barbershop filled, every client returning, and every new review being replied to, boosting your shop to the top of search results. Because as you know, empty chairs do not pay the bills. And that's where Automated Barbershop comes in. The all-in-one system that keeps your clients coming back with automated reminders, built-in business growth, review requests, and so much more so you can focus on the fades and not the follow-ups. It's like having a personal assistant working inside of your business 24/7. There's no tech headaches, no marketing degree required, just more clients and less stress. Plus, it integrates with your favorite booking system and takes just 10 minutes per day so you can have less hassle and more revenue. So, get involved with the future of barbershops and watch your shop and your career grow to a new level. Let our team install the automated barbershop system into your business in less than 72 hours by clicking the link in the description.
Retention. The other big one, and this is kind of twofold. The first part of it is not opening up the shop at the correct hours. There's a lot of barbershops, and I'm not going to say the majority, I'm not going to say half, but there's a good percentage of barbershops who have stated hours and they do not open up on time. That's a problem. That's a huge problem. No other service-based business that is successful does that. So that's a big one. The second one is time in the chair, right? So my cuts, I get a 2 on the side, or pardon me, 1 on the side, 2 on top. It takes 5 minutes. If I was sat in a chair for 30 minutes, I would not go back to that barbershop. So there are times where, let's say you have a 30-minute window for all of your appointments. If you are consistently running over that window and you have clients waiting for you, that's another problem. So I guess it's more so just being about, be a professional in all aspects, but especially when it comes to timing. Because when someone books an appointment, they expect that it will start at this time and end at this time on both ends, right? So you don't want it starting late and you don't want it, to run long, because starting late, you're going to lose a lot of clients, right? Running long, you're now losing money because you're bleeding into, other blocks of appointments. And it comes down to a lot of guys being very casual about how they go about their business. And as a barbershop owner, if you are listening to this, I would caution you, if you have a team that is very casual and lacks, a lot of these traits that we're talking about, it's time to sit down and have a conversation about why this is important.
Yeah, be professional, like we mentioned last week.
Mm-hmm. And it's because there's just a whole myriad of issues with people being casual. And I think that comment that we got kind of reflects that.
Oh,
where
100%. Yeah.
like the comment was talking about how they stopped bringing their children to a shop. I would assume it was advertised as kid friendly if they brought their kids there. And there was vulgar music, sexually, charged talk, videos that should not have been shared in front of kids or in a professional setting at all, really. But this person had, talked about their kids. So I'm going to assume it was in reference to that. But that all comes out of being casual. Now, here's the kind of fine line, right? I'm not saying you can't be casual in conversation with your clients.
Yeah.
Don't be a robot. Don't be like a, boring type of person. Have your personality, right? But you are working. You are representing a brand. And as a barbershop owner, you have people representing you.
Yeah.
So a big piece of that is knowing how to be friendly, but also professional.
Yeah.
How do I be personable, but professional? Which it's very possible. But if you have a team of barbers who are acting like they're at a kickback and not at work, that's a huge problem. And that's, I'm going to guess, one of the primary drivers of people leaving your shop.
Oh, bro, easily. And And to that, just to kind of give the audio audience, obviously you guys can check out our YouTube. It's probably somewhere on one of our videos, the comment. But they also mentioned like yelling your point as loud as you can, like just to make it more important and across the room. And I know that I don't know how much you know about this, but obviously me being, a person of color, like I know the culture, right? And because I know guys, if this were to be a video that blew up, guys are gonna, oh, that's our culture. And I just want to, as someone who is a person of color, like you guys can't keep making this excuse that this is our culture, this is who we are, and then expect to be on this. Like, you can't have two things be equal, where you want to be professional and successful and you guys want to be hustlers and you guys want to make 6 figures a year and have all this money. That's great. Are there outliers that do that? Probably, sure, yeah. But the vast majority, like, you can't keep crying wolf and saying that it's the culture and that's just how we are, we're loud and whatever. I don't care, right? Owen knows, he's known me for years, probably over a decade at this point. I am a loud person, but when it comes to professional environments, I do not act like that, because there's money to be made, there's customers, whatever the case might be. And I mentioned that because the comment specifically said that. Specifically, and you guys can check our YouTube. It's on one of our short comments. Like, the person detailed why they will not be taking their 3 sons back to the shop. And as someone who's also experienced that in a shop and various shops before, where I only went because my barber that I had since I was like 11 was going to different shops, that is something that I consistently see, where it's extremely loud. And I'm not saying that's a bad, like, I'm not saying you have to be silent or you can't play music, or we're not saying that. You can still keep it casual, but the whole screaming across the room and then taking time away from the actual cut, because that's what I've experienced a lot, is guys are on their phone texting, they're having a complete conversation with a different barber and not even acknowledging the client. It's one thing if, what I've had before is like, we're all engaged in conversation, right? Other barbers, you guys are like, it's a conversation amongst like the clients and the barbers, and it's a community type feel. Obviously, that's fantastic. What's not fantastic is when your barber is talking to another one of your barbers and none of them is communicating with the client. The client's just sitting in the chair in silence, listening to whatever you guys are rambling about that has, like, it's completely random. And sometimes it's really not work appropriate. It's in front of a client, right? It's not that you can't talk about it at work, but when there's clients in chairs, come on now, guys. Like, you can't expect to be hyper successful making 6 figures a year as an individual barber, or having successful barbers in your shop, having a successful shop, if these are the things that are going on consistently. Like, can you be mildly successful? Sure. But guys who are listening to this podcast, who get with our platform, who are talking to us on sales calls about growth and wanting to expand new locations, like, there's a very big difference, right? We make a lot of references to great clips in some of the biggest franchises, which we'll probably break down some kind of case study, not case studies from us, but, or like testimonials, but case studies in the sense of us researching some of the top franchise brands inside of the US and what makes them so unique compared to the average barbershop down the street. Because I think Owen and I have both seen firsthand, by researching for our clients some of the competitors and some of the biggest franchise brands, why they are the way that they are on the system side, on the content side, on the branding side. But then I can only imagine walking into the shop what that experience is like as well. You know what I mean? And it's probably vastly different than you're just like super duper casual. And so I wanted to make that point, because I know for a fact guys are going to go cry wolf and say that it's the culture and that's just how we are. And I just think that's a piss poor excuse to not be successful, honestly.
Yeah, it is. And I won't hit on that too much because I don't know. But the one thing I'll say is, if you're going to run a successful barbershop, not every single person will be a part of your culture.
Yeah.
And, maybe it's a vast majority are in your race group or culture or whatever. And that's fine. Cool. Doesn't matter. But you have to understand that what we're talking about goes above all of that. It truly does not matter. And so you even going to that point in your mind, it's like, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about you being a professional, you caring about how your clients feel in your chair. And so that, that was a firsthand account from someone who, for whatever barbershop that was, lost $1,000 if that person and their kids come in once a month. But now we can get into some of the concrete client retention methods, tangible things that you can put into your shop. The first one I want to talk about are, well, I guess the first two are loyalty programs and memberships. These are, both of these, you are taking a price decrease over a short period of time to dramatically increase the lifetime value of that client. And I'll say this about membership programs, because on like the loyalty side, that's really easy. There's tons of really good systems out there that you can just sign up for. It tracks everything for you. You're golden, you're good to go. So I'm not going to dive into how to set that up. What I'll say about the memberships, because this is a new thing that I've seen more shops put in lately. There's two great things about memberships, and then there's one really bad thing. The bad thing is if it's not set up in a way where it's extremely digestible for your client, it's not going to work. If your client has to do math and, sit there and be like, okay, so if I do this, okay, this is 175. Okay, that you have already lost. It's not a program that you want to run, right? Where it starts to get good is if it's, really easy to understand. You are now bringing in clients that are willing to spend more. So now you can kind of cross-sell and then upsell some of your other services, right? So let's say you have a program where it's like two cuts, 2 beard trims a month for, I don't know, let's say like 160. If you have a $50 price, you're taking, a price decrease. And these are all hypothetical numbers. I'm not saying to go run these, but for this scenario. So you now know someone has the disposable income to just pay 160 right now to sign up for it. What that person might also do is, they might pay for the hot towel treatment. They might pay for, whatever. And then they might buy the products that you're using as long as you're pitching them well enough. So now you're bringing in people. You have a new demographic, even if they're current clients, but they move to this. That's a key indicator that they are willing to spend more money with your shop. So those are the people that it's going to be really successful when you start to upsell things. That's a huge benefit. The second benefit is kind of something that we've, already hit on, but it's they stay for the most part. And by them signing up for that program, it tells you that you're doing something right. Because nobody's going to sign up for a membership program if they don't like the experience, if they don't like the barbers, if they don't like the cut, if they don't like the location, all those things. So it tells you that you're on the right path when your membership program is doing well.
Yep.
So it's just one more small little indicator that you are on the correct path to grow. Just to caution everybody, I'm not saying to go implement that tomorrow. Because depending on the situation your shop is in, you might be more, I guess, heavily reliant on that short-term income versus what it's going to be in a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, right? So figure out what position you're in. And if you are very reliant on needing every single person to pay full price for a haircut, it's not time to put one of these in. Fix other things and then you move to this. But it's a huge huge indicator that they are willing to stay with you until they move, die, or go bald. Like that's those two areas. And they're honestly pretty easy to set up. I know that more booking platforms are coming out with like membership stuff now because it's getting more popular. So those are two really good areas to at least look into putting into your shop. Loyalty programs are easier because it's just, hey, 10% off every 10 cuts or whatever, 5 cuts, whatever you want to set up.
And memberships, you got to be a little bit strategic too on how you do it. If you do it wrong, you can kind of really put yourself in a weird spot. You know what I mean?
Like if you way underprice it, you're going to lose a lot of short-term money. But that kind of leads me into discounts. So what I like for discounts is platform and channel specific discounts. So whether that's like a IG post and it's only for your Instagram clients, and it's like, hey, come into the shop this week. If you show us this video on our IG or screenshot this on our story or whatever, then you get 10% off. Or, just go all along the channels that you can think of. Email lists, text lists, all of that. Because then
let's actually give some examples too. Let's brainstorm some ideas. Like, so you mentioned Instagram. One that we did with a previous client is download the mobile app.
Download the mobile app is a great one. One that I really like is the back to school cut. 10, 15% off. Send that, to a few channels.
Leaving a review.
Leave a review is a great one.
Screenshot the review, send it to us, or bring it into your next cut. We'll give you $5-10 off.
Yeah. If you purchase a product, 10% off. If you purchase merch, 5 to 10% off. One of the big ones is bring 3 people, get a free cut, something like that. So there's a lot of ideas that you can use. And why I say use it channel specific is because you can tell which your most successful channel is to talk to your clients and have them actually interact with you. Because then once you figure that out, then that's how you double down on the merch, the products, advertising, whatever. That's how you can really scale things. But first you have to figure out what that is. And it's going to be different for every shop. It's just what it is, right? And if something doesn't work, then you realize, okay, maybe it's either twofold. It's like, okay, if I'm not in the position to fix this, then I'm just not going to put a bunch of money into this right now, which is fine too. But you have more knowledge because of it. And the big thing about discounts, and we should mention this because we said it on a previous episode. One of the things that we run with our current automation stack is 3 months post them not booking an appointment, they get a 15% off discount or 10% off discount. It's kind of based on the client's prices. You don't want to run that too early because you don't want to train people to look for that discount before they book a haircut. That's why 3 months is a really good mark, because most people aren't going 3 months in between appointments. And so that kind of leads into the one thing about discounts. You have to use them sparingly.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, that's great.
Because you will train your clients to only book appointments when they see that there's a discount available. And that's the exact opposite reason that you want to use the discount. You're trying to use the discount to drive traffic.
Yeah. That's why I don't like specific days. Some guys, and we know guys who have done
Wednesday.
Yeah, like specific days where, let's say Monday is our slowest day and we just need to get bodies in chairs. I don't like using it as coining a term. So that way, to your point, it trains the consumer to think if I come in on Mondays, that's when it's the cheapest day, or else I won't come in. I like to use it as, okay, we have, let's just say Tuesday from 9 in the morning till 2 p.m. our slowest period. I'd like to use it where it's like we're planning for like a 1 day thing, right? Where it's like next, like a week from now or 2 weeks from now. All right, that specific day between those times, this is what we're going to offer. We're not going to coin it as anything. We're not going to whatever. We're trying to fix a problem because to Owen's point, even if you fix the problem, but you've coined a term like, Tuesdays are like special discount days, or Mondays are whatever day of the week that's your slow day, and you kind of train people and your shop. It becomes known as like our cuts are normally $50. On Mondays, they're $35. Now you're limiting Monday's revenue to you can only do $35 cuts. And the moment that you change that is going to really set something off with your customers, right? It's going to be very hard to increase pricing without there being kind of some friction when you're going to change that. So I don't like using it as like a coin term, more so like let's fix an issue. So let's use a discount in a strategic way to just fill that day and try to start fixing, hey, Mondays between 9 and 2. This is now we're starting to see that traffic come through, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great point, because anytime you do a price adjustment, there's going to be pushback.
Yeah.
Not from all of your clients, but there's going to be some pushback, and you will lose clients because of it. And that's okay too, right? That's not the end of the world. But you don't want to put yourself in that position because you used a discount. You'd rather be in that position because you're raising your actual cut price. Because you're making more money now versus you were taking a loss on the cuts. And that's obviously dependent on traffic. But let's just say hypothetically, you're taking a short-term loss on your cuts, and then you increase the price or stop that, walk-in Wednesday or whatever. You're now going to lose a larger portion because they're only coming in because of that. And so with all of these things, like you said, has to be has to be thought out, strategic. Do not use them just willy-nilly because you want more people in. That's not how it works, type
Well,
thing.
even with that too, no matter what type of, because I've heard, I'm not going to call them excuses, but reasoning that, by doing this, we're going to get them bought in, right? I don't care how great your culture is, how great your shop is, how great your cuts are. It's not going to matter. If you have coined a term that this day we charge a discount, I don't care how good you are. They are now coming for that price, no matter how good you are. I can almost guarantee you, right? So that's why using it strategically, where it's like a one-time thing, like, hey, or a first-time customer, right? Or a long-time returning customer, to your point about like 3 months or 6 months or whatever. Now that gives you an opportunity to get them bought in, because initially, yes, you're dragging them in with a discount, but they're not coming in under the impression that, okay, this day is where I always have to get my haircut on Wednesday, or always have to get it on Monday, because it's always going to be at least $15, $10 cheaper for me. Everybody knows, like, anything nowadays, online or offline, you're always getting a 10% discount on your first order or whatever, your first purchase, right? But then it goes to normal price because they know you're going to fall in love with the product, or the service, whatever, the brand. And so that's kind of the mindset that guys need to have, is more so of that kind of like online e-commerce type mindset, where we're doing a one-time discount to draw you in. We're not incentivizing you with, oh yeah, by the way, like, this is the day that you probably want to come in because that's always going to be our cheapest day for the, like, you're not setting yourself up for success, and it's going to really hurt you.
And you are bringing in the wrong type of client.
100%.
The people that are attracted to that, they are the price shoppers. They are the tire kickers at used car lots. Those are the type of people that go from barbershop to barbershop to barbershop looking for the cheapest price. You don't want those clients. Nobody wants those clients. You want the clients that will buy more services, buy more products, buy more merch, come in twice a month for 3, 5, 10 years, right? So think about how you are positioning yourself and your barbershop when you're consistently running a promo like that.
Yeah.
Because when you start to think about it that way, you're going to be like, oh, that makes a lot more sense. And dependent on the area you're in, your slow times, this is kind of a tangent, but your slow times, it may not be that you can have your shop filled at that time. If you are in a bedroom community where that is only retail and residential, unless you're in a highly affluent area where are 60, 70, 80, 90% of people during the time that you're open, they're at work or at school. So just because you have this block of time on Mondays or Tuesdays or whenever that's a little bit slower, it doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. Now, granted, it absolutely can,
Yeah.
but think about where you're at, right?
Yeah.
Because like instead of running that 15% off or 20% off just to get people in, you can spend that time investing in and educating your barbers.
Yeah.
Which pays off way more down the road than whatever promo that you're going to run. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
We're actually filming good content and good,
yeah,
which is something we can talk
totally.
about at a later date too, because I know that guys in the industry need a new content strategy. There's some folks, I'm not going to name names, that are actually doing it correctly
Really well.
by
Yeah.
showcasing culture and experience and what it's like to
I
be
know some
in the
guys
shop.
crushing it.
Yeah.
Absolutely crushing it, and it looks nothing like what most shops post.
Yeah. Just cuts.
Yeah. Granted, we're not saying don't post your haircuts.
Yeah.
Post your best haircuts. You did good work. Show it off.
Yeah.
Because this is kind of funny, but it fits into client retention. Because if, like, granted, I never get posted, but if your client gets posted, they're going to be like, oh, shit, hell yeah, dude. And then they're going to share it to their story.
Yeah.
And guess what? Because you went through that 2-minute process of posting and tagging them, not only are you getting free advertising, but you have a client that's coming back.
Yeah.
Because they had a really good experience from something that you did. Now, granted, grain of salt, right? Don't do it with every person.
Yeah.
Because then it loses its sheen.
It's value.
Loses its value. Exactly. So do it sparingly, but the people that you do it with, they're coming back because that's a cool feeling. You know what I mean? And so now we can kind of get in our last 10, 15 minutes here. We can get into some things that we've already touched on. And that's a lot of like the messaging flows that we've talked about, systems that you can put in place to make, I'm not going to say make sure, but you have a better percentage chance of a client coming back solely because you have more touch points with them. And that's a big thing that a lot of guys probably don't know about. But in marketing, where I come from, to get someone to buy first time, it's like 12 to 15 touch points that they have to have. They have to see you, interact with your website, see your content, see your ad, whatever. 12 to 15 times on average for them to buy something. I should have looked into this because I was thinking about it before, but I forgot. But when they are a client, that number doesn't drop to 1. Like you need to have consistent touch points with them, whether they respond or not or whatever. But it's a subconscious thing of if you're consistently communicating with them, whether it's shop updates, reminders for a next appointment. Hey, you haven't been in lately. Here's our 10% discount like we just talked about. You need those touch points. And one area that barbershops fall dramatically short is their email and text marketing.
I was just going to say a newsletter.
Yeah. And a big reason for that is because you are not forcing people to use their email and phone number to sign up to book an appointment.
Or you're not storing the data in an actual system.
Yeah. Or you aren't storing the data. Because if you have the phone number and email of your clients, it's extremely easy to get those touch points laid out and automated.
Oh my
whether it's
God, yeah.
like once a week emails or texts, like a newsletter where it's just like a shop update, story about why the shop was founded, right?
Yep.
Who are the owners? Who are the barbers? Product pushes, merch drops. It's not difficult to come up with ideas for these, and you only send them once a week because you are going to be contacting them, if you do this correctly, multiple times a week with other things. But it's very easy to get that stuff set up. It's just extremely uncommon in the barbershop community, and that's why people don't do it, because it's a very like monkey see, monkey do type thing.
Even if you're bi-weekly or even monthly at bare
Yeah,
minimum, you're
yeah,
already pushing ahead of the competition, to Owen's point about shop updates. Because the guys are probably sitting there thinking like, what do I even push? And it's like, okay, just for the easiest way to push this, do it once per month, email, text, even just email, right? We prefer both, right? But let's
yeah.
just say email. Once a month, you have an automated system that sends an email, right? You guys can volunteer one time a month. You can, like Owen said, shop updates, product updates. My thing is, you got one free month out of every single year, and that's the birthday. Sending a happy birthday text or a happy birthday email.
Yep.
Do you feel like getting a cut today? It's not that difficult. You would think
Yeah.
like, and I don't think I've ever gotten a text or email from a barbershop, and I've been to a few in my
I,
lifetime. You know what I
I
mean? And it's so easy when you think about it to just have a system. I mean, guys obviously have to set up the system or buy one, right? But like just sending, that's such a free and easy way to stay top of mind of people, where it's like,
yeah.
hey, here's ABC. Hey, it's Caleb at ABC Barbershop. Hey John, just want to wish you a happy birthday. And if you feel like coming in today to look good for the big day, feel free to come in. Maybe, and we'll give you 10% off for your birthday. So
hmm
something like that, right? That's just like, you are already, by sending the email, by mentioning them by name, mentioning your shop, thinking of them on their birthday, like you're already setting yourself far apart from the competition, where it's going to be very hard for guys. I think in the next like 12 to 18 months, guys who really take this seriously, I would say probably the next, like, we'll call it like few hundred barbershops, right? I'll give some grace here. I'd say like, let's just call it between the next 3 and 500 barbershops, I think, that actually take this seriously in the market, are going to be very dangerous for decades to come, and going to be very hard for anybody to really compete with, to be quite
Yeah.
honest.
Because barbershops are popping up out of nowhere. I'm sure all of our barbershop owners know that. It's
Yeah.
it's absolutely on a, you know, kind of like upward flow. But and I think barbers is the most growing profession in the service industry, if I'm not mistaken.
Probably is.
But where the market is going is not towards individual shops. What is going to happen, because there's already a gap, and the gap is just going to continue to increase, of the guys like Caleb just mentioned, guys and girls, the guys that Caleb just mentioned, who know what they're doing and take this shit seriously, they are going to end up with the 5, 10, 15, 20 locations who are going to eat your independent shops alive.
Yeah.
And
They're going to
like,
franchise out, and then
yeah,
they're going to charge, I've seen anywhere from a few hundred grand to three
like,
quarters of $1 million
yeah,
to
like
buy
close
into
to
the
a mil.
franchise.
Yeah. And it's like, that's why we're trying to get a culture shift to occur in the
Yeah.
barbershop community, because we've seen this happen
Mm-hmm.
in a multitude of other industries. And when we first started with our first barbershop client, we couldn't believe that it was so far behind. Couldn't believe it.
Industry standard, which is
But
crazy.
it's going to change.
Yeah.
And if you are on the wrong side of that change, I pray for you. I really
Yeah.
do, because things are going to be dark, and they're going to be dark. It's going to feel like that.
Yeah.
But in that moment, and when you start to look at what those other barbershops are doing, if you don't make these changes, you're going to think back to this podcast.
100%.
I promise you, you will. because you're going to think, I could have had all this stuff for $500 a month.
Yeah.
And
At the
now,
time, yeah.
yeah,
At that time, I promise you, it's not going to be 500.
it will not be. And so that's why we do what we do, because we know what's coming. And
Yeah.
there's times when I'm talking to barbershop owners that I feel like the crazy guy in the tinfoil hat who at the end of the movie ends up right.
Yeah.
But it's like, we've seen this happen, and this shift happened in service industries like 8 to 10 years ago. For whatever reason, it just didn't happen with barbershops. And so, like, even really successful salons do this too. So it's weird it didn't transfer over, but it's coming, guys. I promise you that. And if you're on the wrong side of that change, you're going to be in for a world of hurt, because every single client that goes to one of those barbershops that's doing it correctly is going to be like, oh, this is a way better experience. This is way, way easier. And if you're not in that position, it's going to be a really tough slog for you to get out of that.
It's going to be tough. And I think for me, as far as kind of an overarching point, I wrote something down, just 2 words, like level up. You're going to have to level up in this industry. You're going to have to level, and that's for every aspect of your business, for client retention, for customer service, for your ability to communicate with people. I mean, just all aspects of the barber industry. You guys are going to have to level up. Guys have to improve. Otherwise, like we just mentioned, you're going to get left behind. So that's what I wanted to leave it off of. It's at least for my final point. Just level up, guys.
Yeah. I mean, in every regard.
Yeah. So cool. With that being said, of course, Owen Granger, Caleb Rosenberg, appreciate you guys tuning in. Of course, check us out on our YouTube channel. You guys will see a bunch of shorts on there. We're starting to post more long format videos other than the podcast as well. If you guys are interested, of course, in the automated barbershop platform, of course, the link in the description, it'll bring you to our page. You can learn all about kind of what we have going on, how this is really changing the industry of barbershops, and we'll probably start to release some episodes in the future regarding our clients and some local interviews, and as far as that kind of goes, just to kind of show you guys that I want you guys to, Owen and I talk about this pretty much every single day, is that automated barbershop is going to make a big splash in the barbershop industry and the barber community, and
there's truly nothing like it.
And
there's no product like ours.
And it's not even like we're trying to hard sell, like, Owen knows too, like, and this is kind of on a tangent, but like Owen knows I don't hard sell anybody on our platform. You're either going to get it or you're not. It's at the price that it is for a certain reason. And I'm not going to get on the phone and try to hard push you on this. I know that guys are going to see this, as we've seen with our clients. Guys see what we're offering and they see what it can do. And they're like, I need this. I absolutely need this. And not just one shop location. If they have multiple, they're going to be implementing in multiple locations. So that's all I'll say about automated barbershop. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Please comment. If there's anything that you guys are struggling with, please let us know in the comments, whether it's on one of our Instagram pages or our Facebook. I mean, we have all of our links there for our personals, the business as well. Even our YouTube channel, like, drop a comment. You want to hear something, you're struggling with something, you don't know how to do XYZ, feel free to leave a comment. We'll make a little episode about it. But that being said, we will see you guys next week.
See you.